Okay, hi, my name is Emily Strawn, and I'm going to be talking about a report that was found in the textbook by Baker Consulting, and it's all about guest satisfaction from a business conference and their attendees at a Prestigio hotel and resort. Okay, so the survey purpose was just to see how they can improve the satisfaction of their guests. So there's three main points that they wanted to focus on with the survey. The first was how satisfied overall the conference attendees were with the services and the amenities that the hotel offered. Next was how often the guests actually used the amenities during their 3 or 4 day stay. And then last was how likely the guests were to recommend it to another business conference or to friends or to come back and use the hotel. Okay, so the survey was administered to 534 guests. And again, this was over a 3 or 4 day conference just between January 2016 and December 2016. And actually, they received 44% return rate with the survey. So almost half of the people they sent it to responded. Right. And they administered the survey through an online link. So we're going to talk about the results, and we're going to move through each section of the survey. So first, just overall satisfaction, and then how often the guests actually use separate amenities, and then how likely they were to recommend it or come back. Okay, so first is satisfaction with the overall conference services. So 64% to 76% of people who responded to the survey expressed at least satisfaction with the conference services and amenities. So the goal of Prestigio Hotel and Resort was at least 85% overall satisfaction, and there's 3 separate areas they wanted to hit this goal in. They did not meet that goal, and we're going to talk about some recommendations for that later. The first was the meals that the attendees were served at the conference. Next was where the meetings were held at, the different meeting rooms, and then the staff and service that served them during their 3 to 4 day conference stay. So next is going to be a table, and there's a lot of information on it, but I have highlighted the main idea of the table. We're just going to take a look at all respondents. It breaks it down by gender and income level, but right now we just want to focus on everyone who responded. Okay, so we see the different sections. We have conference meals, meeting rooms, staff and service, internet pricing, and the business center. So the goal was to hit at least 85% again on conference meals, meeting rooms, and staff and service. And as you can see, we hit 76% on conference meals, 75% on meeting rooms, and 69% on staff and service. And again, these percentages are corresponding to the number beside them, and it refers to how many responded satisfied or extremely satisfied on the survey. So next we're going to talk about how the guests actually used the services and amenities that were offered to the guests during their stay. So 53% of people said that they ate at the hotels out of all the different amenities offered, and we believe this is because of just convenience. Again, they were only staying 3 to 4 days, so some of the services like the golf course or the spa might not have been as convenient to make appointments and tea times. And we see in this section that gender and income level affected the types of amenities that were used most. Right, so first we're going to see that the hotel restaurant was used by 53% of the respondents, which is a little over half, which is great. 39% actually used the comedy club, The fitness center was used by 35% of all respondents. The swimming pool was next at 31%, then the spa at 19%, and the golf course. And again, there's a breakdown by gender and income level that we can take a deeper dive into later, because things like the spa and the golf course will be a little bit more separated by gender. Okay, so next is the overall satisfaction and future intentions of coming back to the hotel, using this conference space, and recommending it to others. So we can see 3 percentages here that we're going to break down. First, 84% of all respondents to the survey reported at least satisfaction with their conference experience. 73% said they would want to attend another conference if it was held at the Prestigio Hotel and Resort. And 57% said they would recommend it to someone else, maybe another company or another group within their company that wanted to have another business conference. Okay, so we did have some goals with this, with the future intentions and overall satisfaction. So first, okay, so here we see a little breakdown of the goals and how we met those goals. So there was 3 areas that we wanted to hit the goal of 85% on, and that is overall satisfaction, the want to return again, and if they would recommend it to people within their business or outside. So we did fall short of that goal in the overall satisfaction. So we wanted to hit 90 on that, and we will see in a few slides how we fell short of that. And then again, the willingness to recommend was at 65%. Okay, so this is an overall view of a table that we're going to break down next. So overall satisfaction was 84% among all conference attendees. The want to return was 73%, and then 57% said they would recommend the hotel to future conferences. And next we're going to see a table. I highlighted these 3 percentages at the top, and again there is a breakdown of gender and income that we'll talk about the differences with. Okay, so again, just want to note that the percentages correspond with the numbers, and these are people who responded. They were either satisfied or extremely satisfied on the survey. So that means they would want to return or they would recommend. So 57% would recommend, 73% would want to return. So now we're going to break down the differences in gender and how that might affect the way they answer the surveys. If women are more satisfied more than men with the services overall and the amenities and everything that goes into it. So this is actually the first time that they are doing the survey that includes breakdown by gender and income. You can see women and higher income guests were less satisfied overall. They were also less willing to return and less willing to recommend in comparison to the male conference attendees and the lower income conference attendees. So we're going to see a chart coming up. So this is the breakdown. So for would recommend for a future conference, 66% were men, and 47% of those who answered that they would were women. So we see a bit of a difference there. The want to return is a little closer. So 77% of the respondents were men, and 69% were women. So next, overall satisfaction, 89% of men said they would, and only 78% of women said they were overall satisfied with the conference. Okay, next is income. It's the same 3 categories, just broken down by income. So I'm going to break it down by under $40,000 a year, the window between $40,000 and $75,000, and then the cap of over 75,000. So we can see a pretty big difference. We can see the steps. So the most satisfied were under 40,000 and the least satisfied were our higher income guests. And we can see that break down in percentages, how much they agreed with these three categories on the survey. Right. Next important thing is to compare how our satisfaction rates have changed over the past 5 years that we've had conferences here and how we might be able to change that in the future. So from 2012 to 2015, there was overall satisfaction and willingness to recommend that fell 10% and 13%. But from 2015 to 2016, in the window we're looking at now, those two categories improved 5% for overall satisfaction and 8% respectively. Here is the breakdown of those three categories again over the past 2012 to 2016 that we're analyzing now. And we can see that the line, there's no significant drops besides 2015 in 49% would recommend coming back. But overall, the drops are not very dramatic. And we can see in 2016 the percentages that we're looking at right now. Again, this is just more of a breakdown. So among the different types of amenities that the hotel offers from 2012 to 2015, conference meals, again, which we fell short of our goal this year, and staff and service, they decreased 19% and 3%. And then from 2015 to 2016, those two sections increased 8% and 7%. Okay, so we can see on this table the breakdown of each year, those, the overall satisfaction, those three factors, and then the separate conference amenities, we can see all of those broken down. So as you'll note at the bottom of the table, internet pricing and the business center were introduced for the first time in this year's survey, so we don't have data to compare that to, but in the next few years, we'll start to see a trend in those. So this we can just compare easily the percentages over the past few years between all of these categories. And now that we've discussed all the breakdowns of the different levels of satisfaction, how much the conference attendees use the amenities, and if they would recommend it in the future, we're going to talk about some recommendations and how we might be able to raise those percentages. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is examine how our staff and service has helped our guests, how we can raise satisfaction overall. So we're going to want to ask a few questions. The first would be, how can we raise satisfaction among women and higher income conference attendees? Because as we saw in the breakdown of the table, women and those higher income guests tend to be less satisfied overall, as well as only use certain amenities a certain amount. So the Prestigio brand stands for providing high-end conference services, but as we can see, the higher income attendees are not satisfied, which then in turn may give the perception that the Prestigio Hotel and Resort is not a high-end conference service as well as hotel service. So we can do a few things here. We're just going to take action by implementing focus groups and informative talk. So we can do this by inviting women and some higher income guests just to have a Q&A, gain some understanding on what their concerns are or what their suggestions may be for improvement in the following years. Or we can just have a conversation with some of the guests during conferences just to get some feedback about how we can make it different and how we can raise those percentages. So in this, with getting feedback, we're going to want to adapt. After we have a better understanding of how gender and income level impact which amenities and services that they use, we can use that to our advantage. We can use that in marketing materials or services that the hotel offers. We may want to take some away or add different amenities. So for this, the question that we're going to want to ask is, how can we adapt the marketing material to appeal more strongly to certain groups? So for example, if one conference is 70% female and 70% higher income, or if it's a more high-end conference, you're going to want to market to that section of your audience. So you can appeal more to the women based on our research in the past of what they want to experience during the conference, how they feel about the service, and what amenities they will use. Okay, so here we are going to want to just continue some of the things that have been working well, which are the customer service initiatives. This will just continue to improve the staff and service ratings from the conference attendees. We're also going to want to put an emphasis on guest services and use this as a foundation for all of our improvements. So guest services will help improve the amenities, may improve how many they use, how often they use them, and willingness to return. So here we can maintain a high staff to guest ratio so their experience feels personal. We can provide incentives for exceptional guest service for the employees, and we can also continue mentoring programs or any training programs for new guest attendants. Okay, so after we have examined all of this, at the end of training and any new implementations, we're going to want to re-examine. So in some of the we fell short, such as the conference meals, we may want to consider changing the catering services. And as we can see, in 2010, based on the table, guest satisfaction for conference meals was higher than it is in 2016. And this may be because a change in catering, a change in what is served, and we need to figure out how we can regain the reputation for a high-end conference experience, first through meals. And after we hit those goals, we can start to re-examine all the other areas we may have fell short in conference attendees, what amenities they use, how often they use them, and if they would want to return in the future. That's pretty much all I have for today. If you have any questions, you can take a look back at the tables in this PowerPoint. And thank you. Have a good day.